Welcome to our broadcast, The Power of Purpose. Today we are looking at I am. I am. I am. What God says his title was in Exodus chapter 3, verse 14. When Moses asked God, who should I tell them who you are? What is your name if they ask me? And God says, go and tell them, I am who I am has sent me. I am has sent me. And Jesus comes now in the book of John, in the book of John chapter 6, he talks about the bread of life. I am the living water. I am the light of the world. I am. We are dealing with the generation that has lost I am concept. I am knowledge. I am truth. When I'm referring to I am, I'm just not saying God. I am saying, who are you? I mean, your identity. Let's go back to the word for today. That is in the book of Exodus chapter 3, verse 14. And God said to Moses, I am who I am. This is what you are to say to the Israelites. I am has sent me to you. And then I said in the book of John chapter 6 verse 35, Jesus said, I am the bread of life. I am the bread of life. John 6 verse 35. We are dealing with a world that has having identity crisis. Identity crisis. Starting from the top, the first world to the third world, we have identity crisis where whatever is happening in the first world, whether it's America, Europe, is now being drawn. It becomes a model for people to define themselves. And especially the third world and the part that I am part of, which is the Southern Africa. We begin to define ourselves based on some concept from the first world. And beside that, the definition of identity or individualism has lost its sense because people no longer know who they are. They are either defined by a certain philosophy, they are either defined by a certain concept, they are either defined by money, they are either defined by the biological, they are either defined by the race, tribe, nationality, but they have lost themselves and really who they are. There are so many cultures, so many movements that are happening in this 21st century with technology and science going on in our world. There are so many things that are in our faces, in our magazines, newspapers, and the TVs and the radios. So many definitions that are trying to help people define who they are, but they really don't know who they are. Maybe some of you might be listening to me today. You define yourself based on your career. I am a teacher. I am an accountant. I am a preacher. I am a pastor. I am a professor. I am a president. I am a police officer. I am. So many people define themselves by what they do. Now, what you do is not who you are. What you do is not who you are. Who are you beside when we put the whatever jobs or whatever the society has placed on you at your forehead, whatever the uniform you have, whatever the title you have at your workplace? Who are you when you sit by yourself naked in your bathroom? Who are you when you sit by yourself, just by yourself in the bedroom at the dark and the lights are off, the stage is off, there is no music, there is no keyboard, there is no titles, there is no yes sir, yes ma'am, and all those that surrounding the title the society placed on us. Who are you? That's what we are looking at today. I am. The I am. You see what God was trying to do. God is bigger than any title. You can call him Jehovah Jireh, Jehovah Nissi, Jehovah Mekidash, Jehovah, all kind of Jehovah. You can call him based on his provision. based on his provision. Let's say Jehovah Jireh, which means God the provider. But to God there is more than provider. Jehovah Nissi, Jehovah Banner, whatever it is that you're going to say Jehovah is to you. But God is bigger than what the provision or your needs are that we have called him. There is more to God than Jehovah Jireh. There is more to God than Jehovah Nissi. There is more to God than Jehovah Gibon. There is more to God. So he says now to Moses, says, I am. Just tell them I am. Because there is the God, the creator of the universe. He that makes the waves of the sea move from the left to right to the center. He that makes the birds live. He that makes the sea breathe. He that makes the trees. He that makes all these things have their existence and their meaning in him. There is no really name that you can name him. So the best name he has given you so far, just say I am. God, I am, Jehovah, Yahweh. All these, we can say, they describe a part of God. Yahweh. That's why the Jews, they couldn't describe God, and all they could say is Yahweh. Because there is more to him than what your needs and your life and your words can describe. There is more to him. And I am now creates. After he creates a human being, let us make man in our own image. Jesus, man sins against God, and man has fallen from I am, has fallen away from I am. And God now, through Jesus, I am again comes. He makes a promise in Genesis chapter 3. He says, I shall come through a seed of a woman. And Jesus comes through Mary, and he says, I am the bread of life. I am the bread of life. For your fathers have ate manna from heaven, cooked by angels, baked by angels, but they died. But he that eats of me shall have life. I am the bread of life. I am the bread of life. The same kind of title God uses in Exodus chapter 3, verse 15, 14, and 13 is the same concept. Now Jesus comes in and says, I am the bread of life. I am the living water. I am the light of the world. So, and a lot of us, therefore, the language develops I am has revolved. If anybody wants to introduce themselves, they say, I am Thomas. I am Anton. I am Tony. I am Jack. I am John. So many description from the word. So I am sets a foundation for what you're going to be. I am set. So you start with I am John. So I am is, you can't just say John, but there's a way you start with the complete sentences. I am Michael. I am Peter. But like I said earlier, how many of you really are now acknowledging that you have lost yourself in the titles of your church, in the titles of your job, in the titles of what society has put on your forehead, based on your qualification from the university or based on whatever it is? Some of you based on the role of being a husband or being a wife or being a sister, being a brother, you have lost the I am. So you'll be to me now, preacher man, what does it really to be I am? I am, the first I, it is dealing with identity. Now, it's my own understanding, just I have to initialize them or break these letters and have a meaning to it. The I in I am defines your identity. Identity before the title. Who are you before the title? And who are you before these roles and jobs and whatever it is that they have placed on your life? Who are you? The identity. Who do you know who you are? Now let me deal with that with the I, which is identity. We have identity dysfunctionality and identity crisis and identity confusion, identity conflict. You know, you can mention them. We have a problem of identity, the I. A lot of youth, a lot of church members, they either define themselves not even by Jesus, but they define themselves based on their pastors or prophets. It's okay, you have to be submissive. I know your leaders have to be role models, but you have your own calling as well. You have your own way God has designed you and your own purpose. So therefore, first and foremost, it's good to learn from people. Let me see how they do it. Learn their wisdom and their knowledge. But when you get that, learn how to apply it in who you are. I'll tell you a story about identity and help you be able to get some sense out of it. Growing up, I've always have a problem. Somebody always tell me, I don't like how you dress, the big jeans that always sweeping dust on the floor, your big shirts, you know, and those stuff. And in my society, my community, everybody has complained about my dressing, and I'm the only one, maybe, who dresses like me. Nobody else. Everybody want to confine themselves to a certain kind of a design that is in the shop. The certain design that is in the shop, whatever is there, everybody wants to follow that path. I want to dress this. I want to dress that. Okay? I don't have a problem with you. I discovered who I am, and I love wearing baggy jeans and wearing long t-shirts and biggie ones, and that's how I find myself comfortable in dressing like that. I find myself comfortable. So many people have a problem with my dressing because they want me to conform to a certain standard. But knowing who I am, I say that this is how I'm going to dress based on who I am, and also based on my purpose, based on my influence. This is how I'm going to dress, meaning this is in line with what I do in life. So a lot of people, you are either somewhere, you're seated right there, you're waiting for a certain designer or a certain pattern to come, whether be it in Jets, be it in whatever Adidas and Markhams or whatever it is. You can mention the shop, or is it Gucci or whatever it is. You just want to dress that, and when you sit in the media on Instagram, on YouTube, in life, on Facebook, you want to just dress like everybody else. I have a lot of my African wears that I design myself to dress. I go and buy material and I design it how I want it to be. And how I want it. And I tell the tailor, I say, this is how I want you to do it. I draw it on the piece of paper and I wear it, and it's only me. I know who I am. I will not dress like others, neither copy somebody how they dress their suits, neither dress their pants sagging, whatever they dress, neither their hairstyle or their shoes. No, I know who I am. Identity crisis. How do you know who you are? Go back to the manual, the life manual, the Word of God, the Bible. Genesis 1:26, God said, let us make man in our own image and in our own likeness. Let them have dominion over the sea, over the sky, over the animals, and over every creeping thing that moves on the ground. And God made them and He blessed them. Now you can only have power in your arena when you know your identity. Identity move with self-discovery, self-development, self-values, self-respect. All these things come together in line with I am. Identity. The I is for identity. You are an individual. Whether you are part of the church, you are still an individual. Whether you are in a marriage, you're still an individual. Whether you are in a relationship, you're still an individual. Whether you are in a community, you're also an individual. Whether you are in a school, you're still an individual. And God even says He's going to judge us as individuals. Identity. God is going to judge you personally, individually. I. So you're not going to be judged based on the community expectations, based on anybody's expectation. He's going to judge you based on the manual He wrote for a human being. He created a human being and He wrote a manual how a human being is supposed to operate individually, how your destiny, your purpose has to operate, your values, your morals based on His word. And He's going to judge you individually, not as the whole everybody in your church, not as the whole everybody in your community, individual. I am. So do you know who you are? Do you know your personal values? Personal values. Do you have your personal mission? Do you have a personal vision? Spiritual, physical, financial. You have you yourself, personally, individually. I. So you understand, I am. That's the first letter, I. And then we come to the letter A. We are dealing with attitude and attributes. The first I was identity and individuality. And then the second letter is A. We are dealing with attitude and attributes. Attitude and attributes. Most what controls us and what influences us, what pushes us in life is attitudes. Are you basing your life or your attitudes based on some dysfunctional knowledge you learned from your family? Or are you based your attitudes based on somebody's philosophy who also don't live according to the standards? So, what is the root of your attitudes? Attitudes and attributes. We're going to talk about attributes, which is the characters and the powers and the gifts. Attributes and attitude. Attributes. So what is the basis? How do you begin to, what is the ground root? What is the foundation? What are the nutritious or nutrients that builds your attitude? Because attitude is basically some kind of a feeling or a concept or a perception based on a primary knowledge or secondary knowledge. Attitude is a perception, a feeling based on primary and secondary information. So now if you want to gauge how you have an attitude, I'll give you an example. I heard such and such a person is a bad person. Or I heard such and such a person does this thing. So when I meet that person, based on the information I got, if you didn't really analyze and you're a very judgmental person and you take everything people say, every gossip, you're going to judge that person, and your attitude towards that person will be based on the information you got. That's why some people, even in companies, on the positive side of attitude, they do what we call recommendations. Somebody will recommend you to a certain project or a certain company, and based on the recommendation, which is the information, their attitude in receiving you is very open and positive, because they heard that you're a very professional person, you are a very loving being, you're a very social being. So when they come into your presence, they come with that perception of the recommendation they have about you. So, and whatever we have, whatever attitude we have, whether it's in your personal relationship, it's in your finance, it's in your life. So what is the basis of your attitude? Where do you form? Where is the root of your attitude? Do you get carried away just by certain things happen and then your feelings carried away? Or do you get carried away by rumors and you begin to perceive certain things? Do you get carried away by circumstances and problems? Or do you get carried away by certain things in your life and you think God does not answer prayers or God is not that good? What is the basis of your attitude? If your attitude is not founded and rooted on the Word of God, which is the living Word, the fruits of the Spirit, Galatians 5:22, it will tell you about the fruits of the Spirit. Now, when you have the Spirit of God in you, so your attitude has to be grounded from the fruits of the Spirit. Because imagine the fruit of the Spirit: joy, peace, love, kindness, goodness, gentleness. These fruits of the Spirit, they don't care about the surrounding around you because it's inside you where the power is. So what is the basis of your attitude? So I'm giving you examples around attitude. So identity and individuality. A is for attitude and attributes. What is your attitude towards life, towards God, towards those around you? What is your daily attitude and what is the foundation? What are the bases? What are the roots of your attitude? The second concept into it, the A is attributes. Within the attitude and the attribute, you have attributes in you. Attributes given and created by God in your genes and your DNA. Attributes that are formed from birth. Attributes says what are your gift, skills, and abilities. Attributes. What are your gift, skills, and abilities, knowledge that you can use to inform your attitude and your identity and individuality? What are the gifts, skills, abilities, knowledge, the attributes? And sometimes you call them characteristics or features that are built inside you. When you know your identity and individuality, you know who you are, your attitude is now rooted from the attributes. So the attributes informs the attitude. Because you know who you are and you know what is running beneath your skin, in your veins, in your mind, in your psychic. You know the attribute that God has given you. He has given you power. He has given you gifts. So now, you have got I for identity and individuality. A for attitude and attributes. And then we come to A. It's called now maximizing and management. So who I am. Hallelujah, somebody. I hope you're getting this word. I for identity and individuality. A is for attitude and attributes. And then M, it's for maximizing and management. So within I am, I'm expanding. I am expanding. I am growing. I'm maximizing every attribute God has put in me, and I am the management of myself. I am the management of myself. I am expanding. I'm maximizing. And I am the management of myself. You cannot be a management or a manager of the Garden of Eden. You cannot be a manager of anything externally if you cannot manage what is internally. I'll say that again. You cannot manage things externally when you cannot manage things internally. There are gifts in you which are attributes. There are gifts, abilities, skills, and knowledge that God has poured in your life that you need to maximize and manage. You need to grow those things that they should bear bear fruits, that the world should be fed by your attributes, that the world should be glad because of your attitude, that the world should be blessed because of knowing your identity and your individuality. The world should be blessed. Therefore, the maximizing and the management of who you are is important to us and the world. And we have a lot of Christians and people and leaders who trying to manage companies and manage families, marriages, manage churches, manage so many things, but they can't manage themselves. I remember the story of David in the book of Psalms. David says, if an army or general cannot manage himself, it's not good to manage an army. If a person cannot manage themselves, they can't manage a company. They can't manage a relationship. They can't manage a marriage. They can't manage nothing, a household. Do you know how to manage yourself? Can you maximize yourself? I'm closing now. I hope you understand from the beginning to this very moment. I am. Identity, individuality, attitude and attributes, maximizing and management. I am. And God himself, who says I am, has put all these things in you, in your spirit, in your mind, in your soul, in your blood. He's just waiting for you to discover who you are by using his word. Discover. He says, let us make man in our own image, in our likeness. Let them have dominion. Let them multiply. Did you hear that? In our image, identity, image. Let them have dominion. Have dominion. Multiply. So there is an identity, attitude, attributes, maximizing, and management in all. In all this statement God is giving us, Jesus says, I am the bread of life. I am the living water. I am the light of the world. Jesus knew who he was. I am. Jesus knew his identity, his attitude towards us, his attributes towards us. He's maximizing the salvation and the management of the soul. It was all in him. I hope you come to the grips and understanding this knowledge. The I am lives in you. So you can boldly now stand beside the titles and the things the society and the community and your job and your company they are placed on your life. You can now boldly stand knowing the word of God, knowing the identity has placed on you, his image, his print on your face. Look into the mirror and says, I'm the image of God, fearfully and wonderfully made. I know who I am. And my attitude towards life, is joy, patience, kindness, goodness, forgiveness, loving. That's my attitude towards life. And my attributes, Lord, I have gifts, talent, skills, and knowledge to offer to humanity. And know all these things because I have tools in me. I shall be maximizing every opportunity God gives me. Everything God has put in me, I shall maximize it. And I will be the management not of all that is external, but especially my internal soul, spirit, and mind. I got to manage that. I have to maximize my thinking. I have to manage my thinking. I have to maximize my spirit. I have to manage my spirit. God says, I offer into your hands life and death. Choose life. I am. God bless you so much.